This week sees the culmination of the National Points Series, as all of our top riders are here at Margham Park in South Wales for the final round. Overall, Louise Robinson has got just a 2-point margin over Deb Morrell, with the best 3 rounds plus the final counting. And it's even closer in the men's, with Barry Clark and Nick Craig joint leaders, while 4 points behind Paul Lazenby and Chris Young are sharing third. There's been no rider dominant this year. Clark had a good start to the season, while Craig has only recently come to form.
Mainly just between me and Nicky, but I don't know, some of the other riders that haven't ridden the rest of the series could like drag you on or hold you back, so you've got to keep an eye on each other, but I think it'll be just a race to try and do as well as you can.
I think everyone's had a mixed season. There's been a few people away at certain races, and I think it's all going to come down to who's strongest today but it's not just between me and Barry. There's probably about 5 people in contention, so I'm just going to go out there and race my own race. I can't really plan anything, because if you start planning stuff in mountain biking, everything goes wrong.
I've had 2 bad weeks where I've had bad form. I'm just looking at the positive side, you know, I can do a ride. I've beaten all these guys before, so I can do it again. But I reckon there's going to be a bit of a bunch going round. With the wind, there's an advantage if you're behind someone's wheel in the wind, you can, you know, save 30% of your energy, so I'd like to be on someone's wheel.
I'm going to go out hard and try and stay with them. I've had a few years following them around, and I think I'm going to try and have a good race with them today. Try and you know, be up there with the top boys. It's definitely a course for somebody who's fairly fit. A lot of big climbs, just fairly standard downhills, nothing too technical.
I roughly know what I need to do, but I'll just take the race as it comes and see what happens. Just ride my own race and just save a bit for the end. I think there's 2 big climbs in the race, so it suits me, but it'll suit a lot of other riders as well. It's not too technical, so that does help me, because my technique's not up to that much at the moment.
In the women's competition, Morrell and Robinson have had a ding-dong battle, beating each other twice so far.
Basically, I've got to beat Deb. It's as simple as that. I'm just going to ride my own race, not worry about anybody else. Just see what happens, really.
If I beat Louise, I end up on equal points with her if she's behind me, and then I think it works because I finished higher in this round. I would get the series, which I didn't actually realise until Friday, so when somebody pointed it out to me. So, but now I know. It's obviously I'm a bit more aware and I know what I've got to do. If I get a gap and it stays and it's forming and it's getting bigger, then I'll just keep going, you know. But if I've only got like 5 seconds and she's breathing down my neck, then I'll probably think more about riding with her.
This venue has been used 3 times for National Series races, starting in 1990 when Tim Gould completely demolished the opposition. It was also the first mountain bike race for Adrian Timmis, who found it tougher than he expected.
Did you enjoy that, Adrian? No.
There were more firsts in 91 when former teammates Baker and Gould rode against each other for the first time. They were neck and neck until the final lap when Baker made the decisive break. But in 92, Gould had a commanding early lead before getting lost when he missed a turn. Baker duly took up the reins and won again. This was also where Caroline Alexander won her first National Series race, though it'd be another year till she became unbeatable in Britain. Round 8 of the Grundig World Cup again took us to altitude at Mammoth Mountain in California, where the winter snows had still not cleared. Julie Furtado, who won here last year, again set out from the start to prove her dominance at this venue and in the series. However, Ruthie Mathis had plans on keeping her company, while second in the series, Paola Pezzo also remained in contact. By the second lap, Furtado was enjoying herself and had forged a slight lead over a chasing pack that contained Pezzo and Mathis, as well as former world champion Sarah Ballantyne. The short steep climbing on the course appeared to favour Pezzo on paper, and for a while she was back in contention with the American. But a slip on the single track allowed Furtado to escape and take her 6th win with a slender 20-second advantage. In the men's competition, series leader Runa Heudel had decided to skip the round, but there were 3 British hopefuls. Tim Gould, who excels at altitude, punctured within the first 2 miles, but managed to work himself back to 5th by the finish. At the front, Jan Ostergaard and Thomas Frischknecht soon took the lead ahead of Don Myra, while a chasing group that was frequently pulled along by the winner here last year, Gary Ford, was in close attention and included David Baker, who would eventually take 7th. By the third lap, Frischneck had taken his opportunity to escape from the front, and from that moment on he seemed unbeatable, even though his lead over the Dane Ostergaard was less than a minute. With former Motorola Road Pro Steve Larson taking third, 20 seconds ahead of our best finisher, Gary Ford. And at the finish, the Swiss rider had time to savour his second World Cup win this year. In the women's event, the 1-2-3 seems to be sorted, with the battle now on for 4th. And the first 2 also seem assured in the men's. The battle for 3rd, though, is wide open, with 3 Brits in contention and the next round in Plymouth. The course here at Margham has changed slightly each year, but the main features remain. After a tough first mile on grass, the riders will take a water splash and then head up the main ascent along Cum Phillips. This is initially steep single track before easing off as it turns into fire track near the top. The riders can then take a breather on the fast fire track descent before turning up another steep climb onto the ridge, then dropping down to the finish. Race commentaries by Hugh Porter.
Here's the main single track climb up Cum Phillips, and leading the field is Timmis. He's one of a number of strong climbers in this race, and at present most of the rest are content to follow his wheel. Clark, Martin, Early, Lazenby and Alan Gunner are all in there. Timmis is setting a cracking pace and the field is already fragmenting, with Gould and Johnny Clay trying to get back in touch after losing ground across the grass in the first mile. Next through is Matt Guy, and that's Craig, who really needs to be up with the leaders today if he wants to challenge for the series, while at the back, Young's also off the pace. The riders are now nearing the top of the course, and Timmis is still dictating the tempo, with Baker back from America right in his wheel. Also in the group and recently returned from the World Cup is Ford and Gould, who with Clay has rejoined the leaders, though there's still a slight gap back to Andrew Wright and Craig as they commence the main descent. Ian Cuthbertson has had to ease back, and he looks like he'll shortly be joined by Guy and Young, with Jamie Norfolk also bridging the gap. 2/3 of the way down, and this group are flying, with Baker now at the front, while Craig and Wright have joined them. Back at the summit, and Alexander, who with the rest of the women set off a few minutes after the men, is already out of sight of her rivals. She's arguably the strongest climber in the world, and this section here should certainly help her increase her lead. Heading the chasers is Alison Windos, who started strongly in every race, and as the season has progressed, she's improved. But with that pack of 4 behind, she's under pressure. Roberts is doing the work. Morell, Jackie Fletcher and Robinson are sitting in. Robinson is marking Morell, as she knows the best placed of those 2 will take the series today. On the way down, and Windos is still maintaining second, though the leader Alexander is long gone, and she's been able to stretch out her advantage over the chasers, as Angela Ward, who's again made contact, pulls them through on the opening lap of 4. Rejoining the men at the river crossing on lap 2, and Gould has opened a gap. He seems more at ease away on his own, and he took his chances and opened a slender lead on the last descent. However, he's got a long way to go in this 5-lap race, and that pack, which has now grown to 10 riders, will benefit from being together when they turn into the headwind on the descent approaching the start-finish area. Young, though, is not in that front posse, and his chances of getting on the podium for the overall top places could be evaporating, as all the main contenders are ahead of him. The rider who could benefit most from this is Timmis. He was lying 5th behind Young this morning, and once again he's doing most of the work in this group. Clark and Craig are now marking him, as well as watching each other. And here are the present positions as Lazenby and Clay start to slip off the back. The course is almost 2-way traffic just before the stream, and that's where we're picking up Alexander as she continues to extend her lead in the women's race and looks very comfortable about it.
Alison.
Meanwhile, Gould has reached the bottom of the main descent and is dropping down the gears before turning onto the ridge for the second climb. At the same moment as Windos heads down to the river in pursuit of the BMW Klein rider. She still managed to stay away from the chasing group, but it looks like Morel has upped the tempo and is now on her own, rapidly pulling Windos back. And she's doing a good job, because it's Ward in fourth, with Robinson unable to stay in there, now on her own fifth. The chasing group of men, though, are still together, but they've lost another 20 seconds to the Schwinn rider, and at present no one seems interested in chasing him down. There'll be a lot of cat and mouse going on in the group. In fact, Lazenby and Clay have managed to regain contact, and Young's efforts to bridge the gap means he's dropped the trio of young riders, Cuthbertson, Norfolk and Guy. Alexander is halfway up the climb, and she looks stronger than I've seen her all season. I'm sure she's keen to do well here, even though she's not contesting the series. And second place has now changed. Morel's moved up a gear and she's gone straight through and has no intention of letting Windos get on her wheel. I'm not sure whether she realises that Robinson is struggling, but she'll know that if she maintains this position, she'll take the series title for an amazing fifth time. You can now see the damage Alexander has done as Ward, Robinson and Fletcher come out into the heat from the welcome shade of the trees.